From League Safe World Headquarters, it's Fantasy Football Almost Daily. With Paul Charchia, Matt Harrison, Christian Peterson, and Brian Johnson.
Welcome to a free agent edition of Fantasy Football Almost Daily, the video podcast. Welcome. I am Paul Charchian. This is Christian Peterson and Brian Johnson. Hello, guys.
Hello.
It is time to look at our first batch of free agents, everything we learned from week one. Mm-hmm. Overall, compared to past week ones, they're not. There wasn't like the huge revelation. Last year, Deion Lewis was a really, really big deal. Mm-hmm. You know, we were debating at this time last year, do you blow half of your free agent blind bidding budget
on Deion Lewis?
Yeah, I mean, there have been bigger years.
There was some carnage, though.
There was a little carnage out there. Ask Keenan Allen owners and Sammy Watkins owners are feeling a little anxious right now, and they should be.
Oh,
yeah, for sure. Let's talk about some of the players that are available in your league that you may want to pick up, and we'll do it position by position. Starting with quarterback position, I got a couple of guys I think are worth grabbing depending on availability, but two that are highly available. Both Joe Flacco and Dak Prescott are only rostered in 1/3 of fantasy leagues, and I like both of them. Let's start with Flacco for a minute. Threw to 10 different targets in week one. He's always been a long ball kind of passer to a great extent, with sometimes really good results and sometimes not so good. But boy, Mike Wallace is built for that. Steve Smith is built for that. Those guys are really going to push the field deep, and that's going to open up a lot of underneath stuff as well. I don't know that any one of his receivers is going to be as bankable as Joe Flacco is. And next week, Cleveland, then he gets Jacksonville, then he gets Oakland. So, he's a short-term solution at quarterback right away.
Yeah, I think that's the key, though, is that it's just short-term. Just over the course of his career, we've learned that Joe Flacco just is not an elite-level fantasy passer. He's more of a QB2 for fantasy purposes, but usable in certain spots as a streamer during bye weeks or whatever, or over the next 3 weeks, like you mentioned, just because the schedule looks so nice.
Right. Well, if you're the Brady owner that didn't have Flacco, and maybe you went RG3 as your bridge between Brady coming back, Flacco is your guy then, because he's got great matchup the next 3 weeks.
That's where we always targeted Flacco as the ideal matchup for those who drafted and invested in Tom Brady. Dak Prescott threw 45 times in what was a close game, which really surprised me. In part because Ezekiel Elliott never really got it going. But the fact that Jason Garrett was willing to let him throw 45 times, really impressive. A rookie in his first start, did not throw an interception, didn't throw a touchdown either, but didn't give the game away.
Well, it's easy to not throw interceptions when you're throwing the ball 4 yards downfield.
Yeah, it was under 5 yards per attempt. That's amazing. Amazingly low.
They tried. I think they clearly limited what they asked him to do, but the volume suggests a certain comfort with him.
That's true. It was kind of interesting because it was the exact opposite of what we saw in the preseason, which was Dak Prescott just going back and launching the ball up towards the end zone just about every other play.
Which, frankly, they probably should have done more of.
Right, yeah. I mean, but it's a good sign. They let him throw it 45 times, and like you said, he didn't turn it over. So maybe now the next step in the development is, okay, he didn't completely blow this game for us. Now let's maybe open things up a little and see if he can make some plays.
Yeah, I think the future only gets better for Dak Prescott. Okay, let's go to the running back position. Not a lot to see here. I've got 3 PPR running backs that you could invest in if you want to in free agency. Chris Thompson, Shane Vereen, and Sean Drone, none of which really move the needle a lot for me. But what I like about Shane Vereen, Giants guy, only 2 running backs touch the field. Jennings, Vereen, that's it. No Paul Perkins, no Orleans Darkwa.
Nope.
I mean, that has been half of the problem with the Giants running backs has been the rotational use on a game-to-game basis.
He got carries in the red zone, too. One inside the 10, I believe.
Yes, he did.
And this week, he gets the Saints,
who
he did play last year. 9 targets, 8 catches, 60 yards, and a touchdown.
Wow.
And Saints are looking a little shoddier than last year already. So 4 different Raiders running backs caught a pass against the Saints last week, too. So Vereen could be in for a big day.
Vereen's an interesting angle. I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Theo Riddick if he's available.
I checked his availability and it was under 10%. So
is that right?
Yeah, I didn't include Theo Riddick in our discussions.
There.
Well,
I'm impressed.
Part of it's because I use MFL. I use my fantasy league, which I think's got more hardcore players than say Yahoo or ESPN. As free destinations and good entry points for novices. So
I mean, Riddick is the most obvious guy if he happens to be available in your league. He probably isn't, and then so I think Vereen is a is a sneaky angle after him, especially in PPR formats.
Let's talk Chris Thompson for a minute, because Matt Jones just flat out sucks.
He's bad.
And, I don't know for sure which way this thing's going to go, but we know that Thompson's a good pass-catching back. If he were a particularly good runner, I think he'd already be getting more carries.
Yeah.
I don't think they trust him as a feature back, so I don't know that he can expand into that role, but he did get a carry from, was it the 6, I think?
They got it from the 1. It was in a hurry-up scenario, though. They got it down to the 1, and they just ran up quick and gave him the ball. No one was suspecting it, so don't read too much into that goal line carry. No.
He's not a goal line back.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, is that he's basically locked into the role that he plays. Like you said, he's not capable of being a workhorse back, so you're not picking him up with the expectation that he's all of a sudden going to turn into a 20 touch per game guy. But he obviously has a role there, and there's nobody else. We might see Robert Kelly get a little bit more of a look now that Jones looked awful in week 1. But I think Thompson's the guy, for now at least, who I would pick up.
Yeah, Robert Kelly I don't even know if he did even get a carry.
I don't
think he got a carry
after all that preseason hype towards the end.
And he looked pretty good in the preseason.
They just got down too quick last night.
They got down early. They didn't capitalize. Well, we don't need to break down the game. Didn't capitalize on their early opportunities, and the whole thing went sideways when the defense didn't play well. We mentioned Sean Drone again. I think he's my least favorite of those PPR backs, but he could be a guy you could roster. Jalen Richard cleared out that long touchdown, but that feels fluky.
Yeah,
and he only had 3
look
carries.
The only semi-intriguing thing there is maybe he's ahead of Dwayne Washington there, the more highly hyped rookie. So maybe if you're looking for a handcuff to Latavius Murray, a lot of people don't trust Murray. Maybe Richard is your guy instead of Washington, who didn't really even see the field. But.
Another Washington, Dwayne Washington, because there aren't enough, got the goal line carries for Detroit. That probably continues.
Different spelling, I believe.
Yeah, he
one
is. No, they are.
D-E,
Yeah, he is. We have a DeAndre and then a Dwayne.
Okay.
But he's not a D apostrophe capital W. He's just a standard DWAYNE, not the DWAINE either, which you sometimes will see. He's a very traditional. His parents traditionalists,
right?
In that respect.
Yeah. Well.
Dwayne Washington. I think he'll continue to be the goal line guy, but good luck knowing when that's going to come. Let's go to receivers, which is by far the most interesting position out of this group for week 1. Will Fuller, probably my favorite guy. He's only available in 25% of leagues, so he's already rostered most places. I think he's a run, don't walk kind of guy. Give me how much you would spend on Will Fuller were he available coming off the really good preseason. Beat a very shaky Chicago secondary in week 1.
40%, I think, at least.
Yeah, I think he's in that.
If you're in need of a receiver,
most impressive, I think, was the 11 targets.
Yeah, how about that?
And DeAndre Hopkins only had 5 or 6 on the other side of the field against a secondary that didn't have even one good cornerback. So it's not like Hopkins was just locked in a battle with an elite guy on one side, and so they filtered it over to Fuller. So pretty impressive. If he's available, 40% at least.
It's not a good thing to drop passes, but he did drop one for a long touchdown. He could have had the biggest stat line.
It was a pretty easy one, too.
In week 1, so
pretty easy.
That was encouraging and discouraging at the same time. But
he gets the advantage of having Hopkins constantly drawing double coverage, and he gets the advantage of 6 matchups in an easy division with bad secondaries, and I think that helps as well for Will Fuller. Tajay Sharp, loved the game that he had against a good Vikings defense. He's physically imposing, caught everything they threw to him. And get this, Tajay Sharp's snap count was double the next closest wide receiver on the team.
Wow.
How about that? Everybody else was all rotationally used. Sharp on the field almost every play.
Yeah, I mean, I think most of us were kind of, we saw the preseason and he looked good, but we weren't quite sure. Are they really going to go into the season with
feature him?
A 5th round rookie as their featured guy? And indeed he was. He was targeted 11 times, and you mentioned he was just on the field all the time, whereas all their other receivers weren't. So this might be another run, don't walk if he's actually available in your league. You've got 2 options here in Fuller and Sharp, who you can spend a significant chunk of your budget on.
Sharp available in about 1/3 of leagues. Speaking of the 11 targets, at UMass last year, he led the country with 11 receptions per game. 11 receptions per game is bonkers.
I didn't know he went to UMass.
Yeah, how about that?
That's where Victor Cruz went, too.
I'm pretty funny sure. You know that.
I know.
Mohamed Sanu available in 1/4 of leagues. We knew he'd be an upgrade over Roddy White, and we knew there were some targets available for him to eat up, but showed up with a better game than I think I expected, although I like the opportunity. I just don't think he's a special player.
Yeah.
But, when you're opposite Julio Jones, you don't necessarily have to be a special player to get your opportunities, especially against bad defenses. He showed up with a really good week 1. What are your thoughts on Mohamed Sanu?
Well, the touchdown catch he made was pretty
really
special.
good.
It was legit.
The footwork on the back of the end zone was outstanding. Yes.
Again, he didn't get a lot of opportunities in Cincy, and I don't have the stats in front of me, but there was a handful of games when A.J. Green was out, and he was one of the primary guys, and he stuffed the stat sheet in most cases. So,
well, if if Julio Jones goes out, then we'll have another conversation on Sanu.
But I like his prospects moving forward,
especially in the next 2 weeks against the Raiders and the Saints, who just threw at will against each other in week 1. So the schedule is good over the short term as well.
Let me mention this, by the way. You can get more detail on more guys and my very specific blind bidding recommendation amounts by going to the full article that you can find at leaguesafepost.com. So more guys and more detail available there. Eli Rogers, the slot receiver, used copiously on Monday night, targeted 7 different times. Here's why I like Eli Rogers, and more than, say, Coates and some of the other, well, obviously Antonio Brown. We don't even go to there. It's those guys are all sort of sharing work out of that other wide position. Wheaton, Darius Haywood-Bay, Sammy Coates can all share that work. Every time they go 3 wide, which is most of the time, by the way, there's Eli Rogers on the field. So he doesn't have to sweat the rotation of guys that the other position's going to have to worry about.
Yeah, especially in PPR, I think Eli Rogers is your guy. These smaller slot guys tend to not score as many touchdowns or score them less consistently. So I wouldn't. I don't think I would expect the touchdown every week. But yeah, the 7 targets and 6 catches. I think that's something we can probably rely on a week-to-week basis.
Yeah, I don't know if you can rely on the ball magically bouncing to him in the end zone.
No, that would be handy. Yeah, that's right. Wouldn't that be nice?
Immaculate reception 2.0.
Eli Rogers available in 81% of leagues. Philip Dorsett available in 1/3 of leagues. New offensive coordinator Rod Chudzinski had promised more 3 receiver sets, and he delivered on that. Dorsett was on the field a lot, and he got targeted a lot, and he's got a lot of potential as a former first-rounder. I think you want to, he's going to be one of those guys that you'll want to find good matchups against bad slot corners, which happens, fairly often. And when that does happen, here's your opportunity.
Very similar to Eli Rogers' situation, to be honest. Plays on a team with a good offense and a bad defense, so they're going to be throwing the ball a lot. And like you mentioned, they're going 3 wide. I like Dorsett. I guess just because of the pedigree, he was a higher draft pick, a more highly regarded prospect. So I think I like Dorsett better than I like Rogers. Mm-hmm. But what do you guys think? Which would you rather have?
I think I'm on Rodgers because he feels like the number 2 guy in a Ben Roethlisberger passing offense, as opposed to the number 4-ish guy.
We know Hilton and Moncrief for sure. Are
1 and 2.
That's a good point. Yeah.
I'll go Dorsett just because I think Pittsburgh can lean on their running game a little more than Indy can, and Indy's got a really bad defense. So
yeah, they're going to throw
Luck's
a lot.
going to be throwing like 45 times a game.
He's already, the shoulder's already injured for Luck. He's going to put that thing out of socket. He's going to throw so much over the course of the season. Mike Wallace, we all know that he's the deep ball threat. Now he's paired with Joe Flacco, who can deliver that ball. I think, as always with Mike Wallace, the danger is going to be, even going back to when he was good with the Steelers, if he doesn't catch the deep ball for the touchdown, you're sitting on 2 catches for 26 yards or something like that, and he just doesn't help you.
The tough thing about those types of players is you never know when to start them.
No, very hard.
You basically have to just put him in your lineup every week and hope that
this is the week.
More often than not, he's going to get the long touchdown.
If you're in the rare best ball league that allows for ad drops, then he's probably a guy you'd want to spend a ton of money on. But when you have to decide when to put him in or not, that's when it gets pretty hairy.
Terrell Pryor is available in over half of leagues. Had a nice first game. I don't think Josh McCown helps. Not that RG3 was great. Don't get me wrong, but Pryor has been this downfield threat. I don't trust Josh McCown's arm to get him the ball downfield.
Yeah, I mean, Josh McCown was, you've probably seen the tweets and the information about how much better Gary Barnidge was last year.
Because it's all the dump off underneath stuff.
Duke Johnson was also better. He's just dumping it off. So I think you're probably right. It's maybe the one player on the Browns that actually isn't helped by RG3 going down.
Victor Cruz, I'd like to see him play longer and without getting hurt, but you're going to have to make a decision on him this week. Let's go to the Giants desk. What are your thoughts on Victor Cruz, available in over half of leagues?
I think you got to grab him. I would definitely grab him if I was a Beckham owner, just kind of as the rare wide receiver handcuff. Beckham goes down. If Cruz is healthy, he's still fairly young, and he stays healthy, he's going to step in and be a wide receiver too, I would imagine.
How much does he hurt Sterling Shepard?
A little bit, but I think there's enough to go around in McAdoo's system. Again, the running backs, not a ground and pound team at all. So I think they're all rosterable. Cruz, Shepard, obviously, Beckham. But yeah, I'm with you. Cruz, I wouldn't throw him right into your starting lineup this week. Well, they're playing the Saints, so I'm going to have to revisit that one. But yeah, I'm with you. Definitely worth adding. What do you think? Like, what do you have him at, 5%?
I got him at 8%.
8%, yeah. I'm with you.
Okay. Needless to say, Keenan Allen, season over. So let's talk about Dontrell Inman, who I'm not that excited about. Inman did nothing with this opportunity last year when Keenan Allen went down with the kidney injury. I'm a lot more interested in Tyrell Williams, their slot guy, who showed some real signs of life at the end of last year when it had a nice preseason and training camp. I think he has a better chance of taking advantage of this opportunity.
Yeah, I'd much rather have Williams than Inman. I mean, we've seen a little bit of the big play ability, that sort of the run after catch type stuff that Williams can do. He did a little bit in the preseason. I think he had a couple of didn't he have a couple of 25+ yard receptions in the opener as well? So I think Travis Benjamin is the obvious
he's just
beneficiary
taken in virtually
of that.
all leagues, but yes.
So he's owned in all leagues, but now move Tyrell Williams up a peg to where Travis Benjamin was before the injury, and now he's probably a usable player.
There's a scenario here where Phillip Rivers, who was materially worse after Keenan went down, there's a scenario here where you should be dropping him right now and don't know it.
Well, the whole team was kind of worse across the board.
Everything.
I think Woodhead saw the slight bump in targets and yards, but you would think other than Rivers, he's going to suffer, of course. But I'm worried more about Travis Benjamin now than I was when Allen was healthy.
Too.
I like his prospects.
I agree.
Better with the healthy Allen. Now I'm not so sure. But
I'm not so sure either. Maybe Keenan Allen was never a field stretcher. As good as he is at everything, the one thing that he wasn't good at was speed, and he wasn't a field stretcher. Mm-hmm. I wonder if Antonio Gates doesn't fill that middle of the field role a little bit more now, and maybe Gates is a beneficiary. But I'm nervous about Rivers. I'm nervous about this offense. This is a little bit like Sammy Watkins. When you actually are presented with the reality of taking the best player off of an offense, Teddy Bridgewater in Minnesota, Sammy Watkins in Buffalo, and now Keenan Allen, you all of a sudden you go, geez, the whole thing looks a lot shakier. Yeah, exactly. All right, what else? There's already a lot of receivers, but let's just...
Can I throw one more real quick?
Sure.
Jeremy Curley, last night, 11 targets for the Niners. The slot receiver, now that Bruce Ellington is on IR. He was a buzzy player going into this year.
Yeah, everybody lamenting that, that would have been Bruce Ellington getting all those targets.
But the slot guy in the Chip Kelly offense, supposedly the money spot. So Curley, you got to keep your eye on with 11 targets, had 7 catches. So he might be lead the team in targets. So
Eric Ebron, available in about a quarter of leagues. Throughout his career, I've basically just been off of Ebron, and mostly that served me very, very well. But seems like this could be stars aligning. Maybe he's finally ready to take over a real tight end 1 role. I mean, he couldn't even beat out Brandon freaking Pettigrew until this year, and that it took cutting him outright. So I'm still nervous. He's already been hurt significantly once, but he was targeted 5 times last week, scored a touchdown. Here comes another sketchy defense, Tennessee. Kyle Rudolph just made big inroads on Tennessee's defense last week.
Yeah, I think the touchdown upside is what intrigues me about Ebron. Now that Calvin Johnson isn't there any longer, it feels like the role of the big guy that can go up and get the ball in the end zone is wide open there, and that's a role that he, in theory, should be able to fill.
The sneaky tight end plays Brent Selleck. Zach Ertz is out. Ertz had a big game, and with Ertz out, this is going to put a lot of potential receptions into the hands of Brent Selleck. Carson Wentz threw to his tight ends 8 times last week.
Yeah, right. And
safety
with
valve.
The rookie and Carson Wentz, it's the safety valve angle, and with Ertz out, they don't have any other options.
No, they don't. Yeah. All right, we need to wrap it up. Thanks, guys. There's your week 2 free agent recommendations. Best of luck with that, and we will be back next week, next Tuesday. It's every Tuesday. We'll be back with more recommendations for you guys on who we think you ought to pick up. Also, look for all of our player rankings coming beginning Wednesday, usually about Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday evening. The player rankings start filtering into League Safe Post as well. All right, see you then. Bye-bye.